A few months ago, I watched my brother hold up the keys to the $2.3 million house our dad had promised me for years. The smile on his face wasn't just pride, it was victory. The rest of the family called it just business, like ripping away something I'd earned was nothing personal. They thought I'd swallow it quietly. They thought I'd move on. What they didn't know was that I already had my sights on something my brother valued even more, and I knew exactly how to take it. When you grow up in a family where promises are currency, you learn quickly who actually keeps them and who uses them as leverage. For as long as I can remember, my dad had a habit of dangling rewards in front of me and my brother. Most of the time, they were small things: the better bedroom, the new bike, the chance to go on a trip. But there was one promise that stuck, one he made to me when I was 19. We were sitting on the back porch, just the two of us, and he told me, "One day, the house will be yours. You've earned it. You're the one who takes care of things." I'd just finished helping him renovate it. Long weekends sanding floors, repainting walls, hauling debris out to the curb. It wasn't just a house. It was a piece of my own work, my own sweat. My brother? He was the golden boy. The one who could disappear for months, come back with a grin, and be welcomed like nothing happened. We had completely different roles in the family. I was the fixer. He was the favorite. For years, I didn't worry about that promise. Life moved on. I built my own career, made my own money, but the idea of that house was always in the background. It wasn't greed, it was the principle. Then Dad got sick. Suddenly, everything in the family shifted. My brother started showing up more often, always at Dad's side. At first, I thought maybe he'd finally grown up. But little things didn't add up. Closed-door conversations, paperwork on the kitchen table that would vanish when I walked in, the way my brother's smile tightened whenever I asked how things were going. The day it happened was almost too ordinary. I walked into the family lawyer's office for a routine meeting about some of Dad's affairs, and there he was, my brother, holding a shiny new set of keys. "Congrats," the lawyer said to him, like I wasn't even in the room. I asked what was going on. The answer? The house was his now. Dad had changed his mind. In that moment, it felt like the floor shifted under me. It wasn't about the property anymore. It was about the fact that my dad had gone back on his word, and my brother had orchestrated it. I left without saying much. My brother thought he'd won. The family thought I'd let it go. They didn't know I'd already started making a mental list of the things my brother couldn't afford to lose. And on that list was something far more valuable to him than any house. It started with a text from my cousin. "Your brother's here. He's picking something up from Dad's lawyer." I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe some paperwork. Maybe one of Dad's collectible watches. But there was something in the way she wrote it. Short, clipped, like she wasn't sure if she should be telling me. When I pulled up to the office, I saw his car parked right out front. Brand new, spotless, like he'd just had it detailed for the occasion. That was my first red flag. My brother never showed up early for anything unless there was something in it for him. Inside, the air was cooler than it needed to be, the kind of over-conditioned chill that makes you want to rub your arms. The receptionist looked up, gave me the polite but weird smile people reserve for awkward situations they don't want to be part of. "Your brother's already in with Mr. Keller," she said. "You can wait here if you'd like." I didn't wait. I walked straight down the hall. The door was half open, and I could hear voices. Low, serious, but then my brother laughed. That laugh, the one he used when he'd just gotten away with something. When I stepped in, he was standing by the desk, twirling a set of keys on his finger. Not car keys. House keys. My house keys. "What's going on?" I asked, keeping my voice level. Mr. Keller cleared his throat, shuffling some papers. "Your father has transferred ownership of the property to your brother. Effective immediately." It felt like I'd been punched in the chest. "The property?" I repeated. I knew exactly which property he meant, but I needed to hear it. "The house," Keller said. My brother just smiled, like a cat with a mouth full of feathers. "Dad thought it made more sense this way. You've already got your own place. I've got more need." Need. That was the word he chose. I could feel my hands tightening into fists, but I kept them at my sides. "And Dad just decided this." "Things change," he said with a shrug. "It's not personal." That should have been my second red flag. When someone says it's not personal, it's always personal. I left without shaking his hand, without looking at Keller again. Outside, the sun felt too bright, the parking lot too empty. My phone buzzed, another text from my cousin. "Is it true? He got the house." I didn't answer. Not yet. My brother thought he'd cornered me, thought I'd sulk and fade into the background like always. What he didn't realize was that the house was never the only thing he valued. There was something else, something I knew he couldn't bear to lose. And I'd just been handed the perfect reason to take it from him. The thing about my brother is, he doesn't keep trophies, he keeps dependencies. He collects people who make his life easier. Employees who owe him favors, friends who worship his every move, girlfriends who mistake his attention for commitment. And the one dependency he's nurtured more than anything? His business. It wasn't a massive company, more of a boutique agency, but it was his pride. The way other people talk about their kids, he talked about his clients. He'd built it fast, flashy, leaning heavily on Dad's connections. And I knew one thing. Without those clients, without that image, he'd crumble. That thought was still swirling in my head when I bumped into an old acquaintance at a coffee shop 2 days later. Max, one of my brother's former employees. We'd never been close, but the look on his face when he saw me was cautious. "Heard about the house," he said. "Yeah." I kept my tone neutral, stirring my coffee. News travels fast. Max leaned in a little. "Look, I don't know if you care, but your brother's been taking some risks. Financial ones. The kind that could." He stopped, glanced over my shoulder. "Never mind." That never mind hit like a starter's pistol in my brain. I didn't push him right there, but the seed was planted. Later that night, I started scrolling through my contacts. I had numbers. Old clients I'd helped my brother land back when he was still learning to fake confidence. A few names jumped out. People who owed me a call back. I made the first one the next morning. "Hey, it's been a while," I said, keeping my voice warm. "Just checking in. How's working with my brother's firm going?" The pause on the other end told me more than words. "It's fine," the client said, but his tone was flat. "We've had some delays. A few miscommunications. 2 more calls. 2 more half answers." A picture started forming. Cracks in the facade, deadlines missed, invoices lost. By the 5th call, I knew. My brother wasn't just sloppy. He was in trouble. That should have been my first red flag. The part where I realized his business was propped up by reputation, not results. But instead of warning him, I filed it away. This was the weak spot I'd been looking for. That night, my phone lit up with a group text from the family. Photos of my brother at the house, my house, hosting some kind of dinner. The caption from my aunt read, "Finally bringing life back into the place." I stared at the pictures longer than I should have. Him at the head of the table, wine glass raised. Guests laughing. Not one empty seat. Something shifted in me. This wasn't just about property anymore. It was about erasing the smug certainty on his face. And if I played this right, I wouldn't just take away what he'd stolen from me. I'd make sure everyone saw him lose it. It didn't take long for the trail to lead somewhere solid. A week after that family group text, I got a call from someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Julia, a former client of my brother's. "I don't know why I'm telling you this," she began, "but I feel like you should know. We're pulling our account from your brother's firm." "Really?" I leaned back in my chair, letting her fill the silence. "It's been a nightmare," she said. "Missed deadlines, unreturned calls, invoices for work that was never done. And last month, we found out he subcontracted our biggest project without telling us. And it's a mess. He begged us to stay, said it would ruin him if we left." Those last words stuck in my head. It would ruin him. I thanked her, kept my voice calm, but my mind was already running ahead. If Julia's account was gone, others were probably on the fence. His empire wasn't a fortress, it was a house of cards. Later that day, I decided to see it for myself. I showed up at his office unannounced. The reception area looked the same, sleek furniture, glossy awards on the wall, but the energy was different. Quieter. No hum of conversation, no phones ringing off the hook. "Is my brother in?" I asked the receptionist. She hesitated. "He's out. Can I take a message?" I smiled. "No need." I walked the hall, taking in the half-empty desks, the boxes stacked in corners like people had been packing up in a hurry. One door stood ajar, his office. Inside, the blinds were half-drawn, but sunlight caught on something in the middle of his desk. A folder marked urgent, final notice. I shouldn't have opened it, but I did. It was from a supplier, threatening legal action over unpaid invoices totaling more than $80,000. That should have been my moment to feel pity. It wasn't. Instead, I felt the first clean edge of control in weeks. This wasn't petty revenge anymore. This was strategy. I left without touching anything else, But on my way out, I caught sight of a calendar pinned behind the receptionist's desk. 2 weeks from now, annual client gala, RSVP final. Perfect. Back in my car, I sat there with the engine idling, thinking about that dinner at my house. The smug toast. The laughter. If I played this right, that gala could be the stage where his whole facade cracked. Not just in front of me, in front of everyone who mattered to him. And the best part? All I'd have to do was nudge the first domino. 2 days after I saw that final notice on his desk, the opportunity one didn't even know I was waiting for landed right in my inbox. It was an email from Max, the ex-employee I'd bumped into at the coffee shop. The subject line was simple: "You might want to see this." Inside was a forwarded message thread between my brother and one of his biggest clients, a luxury brand that prided itself on exclusivity and perfection. The kind of client that could make or break his credibility. The emails were bad. Really bad. My brother had promised them a high-profile campaign launch in time for their new product drop, but the assets weren't ready. Worse, he blamed the delay on the client's own lack of organization in writing. The tone was smug, condescending, exactly the kind of thing that would make any brand furious. And furious they were. The last email in the chain was from the client's VP of marketing. "If this is how your firm operates, we'll have no choice but to terminate our contract and inform our network accordingly." Inform our network. Those 3 words were the nail. This client's network wasn't just a few contacts. It was the core of the high-end business world my brother depended on. If they pulled out and started talking, the ripple effect would hit every corner of his roster. I called Max immediately. "Where did you get this?" "Let's just say your brother's not as careful with his shared folders as he thinks," Max said. "I left 6 months ago, and I can still access a few things." "I thought you should know." Word's going around already. That gala he's planning? Half the guest list is only coming to see if the rumors are true. Half the guest list. Perfect. I thanked him, but after I hung up, I sat there staring at my laptop screen. This wasn't just leverage. This was a weapon. Up until that moment, my plan had been simple: expose his financial mess subtly, chip away at his image until it collapsed. But now I could time the hit for maximum impact. Not only would people see the cracks, they'd hear them shatter in real time. The vision started to take shape in my head. The gala in full swing, my brother working the room with his trademark fake charm, glasses clinking, cameras flashing, and then the whispers spreading. Phones lighting up with the leaked emails. Faces turning. Conversations freezing. He'd feel the exact same burn I'd felt watching him twirl those house keys, but multiplied by everyone who mattered in his world. It was almost too easy. Almost. The only problem? If I mishandled it, the fallout could splash back on me. I needed to make sure no one could trace the leak, which meant pulling in someone who could get the job done quietly and make it look like it had come from inside his own circle. That's when I knew exactly who to call. The person I had in mind wasn't a hacker in the movie sense. No dark hoodie, no rows of glowing code. She was smarter than that. Emily had once been my brother's event coordinator, the one who knew every client's name, every supplier's quirks, and exactly how to make things happen without leaving a trace. I called her under the pretense of catching up, but she saw through it within 2 minutes. "This is about him, isn't it?" she said. I didn't deny it. I have something that could change how people see him. I just needed to surface at the right moment, without anyone tracing it back to me. There was a pause, then a short laugh. "You want fireworks at the gala?" I didn't say yes, but my silence was answer enough. We met the next day in a quiet cafe on the edge of town. I slid my laptop across to her, the email thread still open. She scrolled slowly, her expression sharpening with every line. "This," she said finally, "is career suicide for him. And you're sure you want to be the one holding the match?" Her words hit harder than I expected. For a second, I pictured Dad, the way he used to talk about keeping family matters in the family. Was I really about to blow all of that apart in public? But then I saw the house in my mind. My house. The one I'd poured sweat into. The one my brother now posed in like he'd earned it. The bitterness came back, hot and steady. "Yes," I said. "I'm sure." Emily leaned back. "Then it's simple. I'll cede the emails to 2 of his competitors. They won't sit on something like this. They'll pass it along. And once it hits the right inbox, you can't stop it. It'll be everywhere." Part of me flinched at that. Once it started, there'd be no pulling it back. It wouldn't just be him losing face. Dad would see it. The family would see it. Maybe even some people I respected. What's your cut? I asked. Nothing, she said. Consider it repayment. He made my life hell at that job. This is just me breaking even. For the first time since this started, I almost smiled. We agreed on the timing. 2 days before the gala. Just enough for Whispers to start, but not enough for him to cancel or pivot. I'd show up, play the supportive sibling, watch it unfold. That night, lying in bed, the weight of it all pressed in. I wasn't just plotting to humiliate my brother. I was planning to burn down the one thing he'd built on his own. And no matter how much I told myself he deserved it, there was a part of me that wondered what crossing that line would turn me into. I stared at the ceiling, the glow of my phone on the nightstand, Emily's last text still open. Once we do this, there's no going back. She was right. And yet, for the first time since he took the house, I felt like I was the one in control. 2 days before the gala, Emily sent me a single message. It's done. No emojis, no explanation. Just 2 words. I didn't need more. I knew she'd seeded the emails. That night, I kept my phone close, half expecting some immediate explosion. But it wasn't until the next afternoon that the first sign appeared. A LinkedIn post from one of my brother's competitors, vague but cutting. Some agencies talk a big game, but can't deliver when it counts. Clients deserve better. The comments section was already filling with industry insiders asking, who? And are you talking about them? It was the digital equivalent of a match catching on dry grass. By the morning of the gala, the rumors had grown teeth. 2 different clients had quietly removed my brother's company name from their websites. One industry blog posted a blind item about a once promising boutique agency in a reputational freefall. I watched it all with a kind of detached satisfaction. The plan was working. That evening, I arrived at the venue early. The gala was in one of those glass-walled event spaces downtown, all city lights and expensive champagne. From the moment I walked in, I could feel the hum, the undercurrent of curiosity. Guests leaning in to whisper, eyes darting toward the door as if waiting for a show to start. When my brother finally arrived, he was in full performance mode, shaking hands, laughing too loudly, making sure the cameras caught his good side. If he'd heard the rumors, and I was sure he had, he was determined to smother them with charm. For the first hour, it seemed like it might actually work. People smiled at him, laughed at his jokes. Even I started to wonder if the leak had been too subtle, if maybe this would all blow over. Then it happened. I was standing near the bar when I saw 2 men, high-profile clients, pull him aside. Their faces were tight, voices low but sharp. He kept shaking his head, gesturing with open palms like he was trying to talk them down. One of them pulled out a phone, showed him something on the screen. Whatever it was, it froze him. Just for a second, but I caught it. The mask slipped. That should have been my signal that the collapse was underway. And for a moment, it felt like victory. But then, across the room, I noticed something I hadn't planned for. My father. He was standing in the corner, talking to one of my brother's oldest clients, a man Dad had introduced him to years ago. They were both looking toward my brother, and then toward me. My stomach tightened. I suddenly realized that if Dad connected me to this, the fallout wouldn't just hit my brother. It would split the family clean down the middle. The music swelled, glasses clinked, laughter rose around me, but I barely heard it. I'd lit the fire, and now it was spreading in directions I hadn't calculated. I'd planned for whispers, for a slow, controlled burn that would eat away at my brother's image without pointing a single finger at me. What I hadn't planned for was the spark leaping straight into my lap. It happened about an hour into the gala. I was near the balcony, enjoying the view of the city lights, when Emily slid up beside me. "You've got a problem," she murmured. Her tone cut through the music. "What kind of problem?" "Your brother's asking questions," she said. "Not just to clients, to people who know you. He's convinced someone's targeting him, and he's telling them it might be you." My stomach dropped. "He's got no proof." "Doesn't matter," she said. "If he starts saying it loud enough, someone will believe him. And guess what? Your father already does." I turned to look across the room. Dad was still in that same corner, but now his eyes were on me. Not curious, not confused. Assessing. That should have been my first clue that things were about to get messy. I was about to tell Emily to keep her voice down when I felt a hand on my shoulder. "My brother. Can we talk?" His smile was the kind you wear for an audience. All teeth and no warmth. We stepped into a side hallway, away from the music. "Enjoying yourself?" he asked. "Sure," I said. "Why wouldn't I?" His eyes narrowed. "Because it's funny. 2 days before my biggest event of the year, Some confidential emails leak. Emails you'd love to see out in the open. I shrugged. Sounds like you've got security issues. He leaned in, voice low. If I find out you had anything to do with this, you'll what? I cut in. Throw me out of a house you already stole? For a second, I thought he might actually lose it right there. But then he smiled again, slower this time, more dangerous. Careful, he said. Dad's already asking questions. And you know how he gets when he feels betrayed. We went back into the main room like nothing had happened, but my pulse wouldn't slow. I could feel eyes on me. Maybe real. Maybe just my paranoia feeding on the tension. Then, as if to prove Emily right, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You should watch your back. He's looking for someone to blame. I didn't know who sent it, but the implication was clear. My control over this situation was slipping fast. For the rest of the night, I kept catching fragments of conversations. My name, my brother's name, words like sabotage and set up. The story was spreading, but now I was part of it. I wanted him humiliated. I wanted him cornered. But if the tide turned, I could be the one standing in the middle of the wreckage. And the worst part? The gala wasn't even over. The shift happened so fast, I almost didn't notice it until it was too late. 1 minute, I was standing by the dessert table, pretending to care about the petit fours. The next, the entire atmosphere in the room had changed. Conversations grew hushed, groups closed ranks, and eyes started flicking toward me with something sharper than curiosity. Emily appeared again, this time without her usual composure. It's bad, she said. What now? Your brother's talking to the press. I froze. What press? She jerked her head toward the far end of the room, where a local business columnist, the kind whose articles were practically scripture in our city's elite circles, was nodding along as my brother spoke. He wasn't whispering. He wasn't hiding. And every now and then, he'd glance in my direction, just enough for people to follow his gaze. That should have been my first warning, I thought. He's not playing defense anymore. He's going on the attack. I made my way toward the balcony to get some air, but halfway there, Dad intercepted me. His jaw was tight, his eyes unreadable. Did you do it? He asked, no preamble. Do what? I played dumb, but my voice didn't sound as steady as I wanted. Don't, he said. I know about the emails. Your brother says you had help from someone on the inside. Is that true? Hearing it from him, from my father, felt like a crack splitting through my chest. For a moment, I couldn't even answer. Dad? I said finally, he stole the house from me. He's been playing you, playing everyone. And you're asking if I'm asking, he cut in. Because if it's true, you didn't just hurt him. You hurt this family. And there it was, the verdict before the trial. Before I could respond, a voice came over the PA system, announcing the start of the evening's keynote. My brother was being introduced. He strode to the podium, flawless in his tailored suit, the room applauding like nothing had happened. But then he did something I hadn't anticipated. He went off script. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight, he began, especially in light of some unfortunate rumors. You may have heard about supposed client issues at my firm. Tonight, I can tell you those rumors came from one place, and one person. My own sibling. The room went still. My name wasn't spoken, but it didn't have to be. Every head turned toward me. I felt the ground tilt beneath me. The satisfaction I'd been nursing for weeks evaporated, replaced by the cold realization that he'd just flipped the entire narrative. I wasn't the wrong party anymore. I was the villain. Emily caught my eye from across the room, shaking her head slightly, as if to say, we're losing this. And she was right. If I didn't act now, the damage would be permanent, not just to him, but to me. The applause after his little speech was polite but thin, not the rousing affirmation he wanted. Still, it was enough to give him the confidence to smirk at me from the podium like he'd just buried me alive. That was his mistake. As he launched into his keynote about integrity in business, I stepped toward Emily. Can you get me the mic? I whispered. She hesitated only a second before nodding. 2 minutes later, one of the AV techs handed me a spare wireless. My palms were damp, my pulse hammering in my ears, but the heat in my chest burned away any hesitation. I waited until my brother paused for effect in his speech. Then I spoke into the mic, my voice carrying through the hall. Since we're talking about integrity, I said, maybe we should define it. Every head turned. My brother froze mid-sentence, hands still hovering over the podium. Integrity, I continued, stepping into the light, isn't blaming your clients when you drop the ball. It isn't taking credit for work you outsourced and botched. And it sure as hell isn't stealing from your own family. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. My brother's face tightened, the smirk gone. This isn't the time, he started, but I cut him off. Oh, I think it's exactly the time. I pulled my phone from my pocket and held it up. These are the emails, from you to one of your biggest clients. I didn't write them. I didn't fabricate them. They're your words. Your deadlines missed. Your arrogance. And unless every single person here suddenly forgot how to read, they'll see exactly who's been dragging your company into the ground. Gasps now. People were pulling out their own phones. I knew Emily had already sent the file to half the guest list. My display was just the final push. My brother stepped away from the podium, trying to grab the mic from me, but I backed up. You want to talk about hurting the family? You put your pride above our father's word. You took the house Dad promised me, and you smiled while you did it. I let that slide. But this, I gestured to the crowd. This is you all on your own. The murmurs swelled into a low roar, some guests leaving their seats to get a better view, others already turning their backs on him. One of his biggest clients, seated in the front row, shook his head slowly before standing up and walking out. That was the breaking point. My brother dropped the performative charm and lunged toward me, but two security staff moved between us. You should go, one of them said to him quietly. Now, for a moment, I thought he might fight it, but then he looked around, really looked, and saw there was no saving the room. He left without another word. I stood there, chest heaving, feeling the adrenaline drain out of me. The house, the keys, the months of quiet fury, it all seemed smaller now. What mattered was that I'd ripped away the one thing he thought no one could touch, his reputation. And judging by the silence that followed him out, he wasn't getting it back. The gala broke apart faster than I expected. Within minutes of my brother's exit, the room emptied by half. The people who stayed wore expressions somewhere between curiosity and discomfort, as if they'd just witnessed a car crash in slow motion and weren't sure whether to clap or call someone. Emily found me by the bar, handing me a glass of water. You didn't just burn the bridge, she said with a faint smile. You blew it off the map. I took a sip, the ice clinking softly. The adrenaline was gone now, replaced by a kind of hollow quiet. Victory has a strange aftertaste, sharp, but fleeting. The next morning, the fallout began. Industry blogs ran with the story, some citing anonymous sources who confirmed the email leak. LinkedIn lit up with polite but cutting statements from former clients about seeking partnerships that align with our values. By the end of the week, 3 of his biggest contracts had been terminated. The suppliers who'd been chasing him for payment went public, posting statements about protecting their business interests. And just like that, the empire he'd built on charm and shortcuts collapsed. As for the house, he kept it for about a month. Then the property went up for sale, the listing photo showing an empty driveway and windows without curtains. Word was he couldn't afford the upkeep anymore. I didn't buy it. Not because I couldn't, but because by then, I didn't need it. The calls from family started about a week later. Some were awkward attempts at understanding both sides. Others were outright accusations. Dad didn't call at all. I think that hurt more than I wanted to admit. Still, I didn't regret it. There's a difference between losing something you were promised and letting someone keep it because you're afraid of the fight. I'd been afraid for too long. One afternoon, I ran into Julia, the former client who'd tipped me off. She smiled when she saw me. You know, she said, people talk. They'll remember this for a long time. I shrugged. Good. So will he. Walking away, I realized something. The revenge wasn't really about the house anymore. It was about reclaiming the space in my own head that he'd been renting for free. And that, finally, was empty. Emily called me a few days later. So, she asked, what's next? Next? I said, I live my life. Without him in the way. There was a pause, then a laugh. Fair enough. Just promise me one thing. If you ever decide to go nuclear again, give me a heads up. I promised, though I knew I wouldn't need to. Not because I'd gone soft, but because I'd finally learned the difference between holding power and using it. My brother disappeared from the city's social scene within 2 months. His company dissolved quietly, absorbed by a competitor. Every so often, I hear rumors that he's working under someone else now, that he moved out of state, that he's thinking of starting fresh. Maybe he will. Maybe he won't. Either way, I'm not watching anymore. The house I live in now isn't worth $2.3 million. It's smaller, quieter, but every inch of it is mine. No promises, no strings, no keys in someone else's pocket. And that, I've learned, is worth more than any inheritance. When I look back, the part that still surprises me isn't how quickly it all unraveled for him. It's how long I let it go before I finally acted. For years, I told myself keeping the peace was worth more than standing up for what I'd earned. That family mattered more than fairness. But here's the truth I wish I'd learned sooner. When someone shows you they're willing to take from you without guilt, they'll do it again. And again, and again, until you stop them. I didn't get the house back, but I got something better. The knowledge that I can draw a line and hold it, no matter who's on the other side. Maybe you've been in a similar place, watching someone take what's yours, convinced there's nothing you can do. Trust me, there's always something. If you stayed with me through this story, thank you. I share these moments because someone out there needs to hear them. And if you want more stories like this, real, raw, and unfiltered, you know what to do.